I stood in the middle of the expansive garden of the family villa, where lanterns dangled from the branches of ancient oak trees, illuminating the familiar faces chatting and laughing merrily. Today was my father's 70th birthday. Howard Grayson, a man whom all of Raleigh, North Carolina knew as an icon in the medical field. He was the director of St. John's Memorial Hospital, and our family, the Graysons, had been tied to the medical profession for generations. I, Elliot Grayson, 37 years old, was a successful neurosurgeon carrying on that tradition. Born and raised in this prestigious environment, I always felt like I was living in a perfect painting, where everything was neatly arranged, from lavish parties to achievements etched on golden plaques. The party atmosphere was truly warm, with soft jazz music echoing from the outdoor speakers, and the scent of grilled meat mingling with the fragrance of roses wafting everywhere. I was chatting with a few guests, a colleague from the hospital and a couple who were friends of my parents. They asked about my most recent surgery, a complex brain tumor case that I had successfully handled the week before. I smiled, recounting the professional details modestly, but in my mind I was thinking about Anna, my daughter. The 8-year-old girl was running around on the lawn playing with Uncle Colin, my younger brother. Colin had always been her beloved uncle, with his warm smile and humorous stories that made Anna giggle endlessly. Suddenly, the phone in my suit pocket vibrated, a light buzz but enough to interrupt my thoughts. I pulled it out and looked. The screen lit up with the name Rebecca, my ex-wife. My heart tightened slightly. We had divorced 3 years ago, but we maintained a peaceful relationship for Anna's sake. Rebecca was a police detective, a strong woman, and calls from her were usually not joking matters. I excused myself from the guests and stepped to a quieter corner, pressing the answer button. "Elliot, it's me. Are you there?" Rebecca's voice came through immediately, urgent and serious enough to startle me. No usual greetings, no hint of warmth, just pure urgency. "Yeah, I'm here. What's going on?" I replied, trying to keep my voice calm but already sensing something was wrong. "Where are you? Where's Anna? What is she doing? With whom?" she asked, her voice higher than usual as if trying to suppress panic. I looked out to the yard where Anna was laughing and playing with Colin. "She's playing in the yard with Uncle Colin." "Why? Is something wrong?" There was silence on the other end. A pause that lasted a few seconds, but to me it felt like centuries. I could hear Rebecca's rapid breathing, and it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Then she spoke, her voice hardening, quick and sharp. "Get her out of there right now, Elliot." "Right now?" I froze, my hand gripping the phone tightly. "What? What's going on?" "Rebecca, what are you talking about?" Rebecca replied hastily. "Don't ask. Just get Anna home. It involves Colin." "Involves Colin? My brother? The one the whole family adored, a friendly literature teacher beloved by his students?" My mind reeled. "Involves how?" "Explain, Rebecca. I don't understand." She repeated, her voice more resolute. "Trust me, Elliot. I'll explain when you get our daughter home. But right now, get her out." A wave of unease surged within me like an undercurrent. I wasn't the type to panic easily. Every day I faced life-and-death surgeries where a small mistake could cost a patient's life. But Rebecca's voice, that seriousness, made me unable to dismiss it. We had argued many times, but she had never used this tone. It wasn't anger, but fear. A deep fear I could feel through every word. "Okay, I'll get her home," I whispered, my voice trembling slightly. "But you have to explain." I hung up, my heart pounding in my chest. The garden around me suddenly felt stifling, the laughter of everyone like distant noise. I walked quickly to the yard, trying to keep a normal expression. Anna was sitting on the grass, holding a ball, grinning as Colin told some funny story. My brother, 34 years old, with his messy brown hair and easy smile, was sitting beside her. They looked so carefree, like so many times before. "Anna, sweetheart," I called, trying to sound cheerful. "We have to go home now." Daddy has an emergency. She looked up, her big round eyes surprised. But Dad, the party's not over yet. I'm playing with Uncle Colin. Colin looked at me, smiling. What's up, bro? Something urgent? Everyone's having fun, stay a bit longer. I swallowed, trying not to show my unease. No, we really have to go. The hospital called, emergency surgery. I lied, but my voice was firm. My brother shrugged, still smiling. All right, be careful. See you next time, Anna. I took Anna's hand, pulling her up. She toddled after me, still puzzled. We walked through the garden. I tried to avoid curious glances. At my parents' spot, I stopped. My father, Howard, was standing among his friends, holding a glass of wine, his face radiant under the lights. Dad, I have to leave early, I said, my voice low. Hospital called. Emergency case. My father raised an eyebrow but nodded. All right, work calls. Be safe, son. My mother, Diana, hugged Anna. Get home safe, sweetie. I nodded, then led Anna to the car. As I sat in the driver's seat, my hands trembled, inserting the key. Anna sat in the back, buckling her seatbelt, asking, Dad, why are we leaving so early? Uncle Colin was telling a good story. I looked at her through the rearview mirror, forcing a smile. Daddy has something urgent, sweetheart. Tomorrow, Daddy will tell you a story. The car rolled away from the villa, the Raleigh road at night quiet with only the pale yellow streetlights. In my heart, I was half believing, half doubting Rebecca's warning. Colin was my brother, the one I grew up with, sharing everything from childhood. How could there be something serious involving him? But Rebecca's voice haunted me, like a dark prophecy. I felt something grave waiting ahead, like a storm gathering in the clear sky. On the way home, Anna sat in the back seat, her little eyes still sparkling with joy from the party. But now she was looking out the window in confusion. Dad, why are we leaving so early? Uncle Colin was telling a story about a flying dragon. I wanted to hear the end. Her voice was soft, mixed with a bit of hurt. I looked through the rearview mirror, my heart tightening. Anna was 8 years old, an obedient little girl to the point where I sometimes wondered if she was too shy. She was afraid of the dark, always needing me to read her a story every night before she would sleep. And in those moments, I would often read a few pages hastily and turn off the light. As a neurosurgeon, I was busy with surgeries that lasted hours, emergency meetings, and sleepless night shifts. Time for Anna was always lacking, and every time I thought about it, I blamed myself. But tonight, her confusion made me feel more guilty than ever. A small apartment on the outskirts of Raleigh, which after the divorce Anna and I had turned into our own cozy nest. I carried her inside, feeling her small body nestle against my shoulder. The living room was pitch dark, with only the light from the kitchen spilling in. I placed Anna on the bed, pulling the blanket snugly over her. Good night, my little princess. She smiled weakly, then closed her eyes. I sat by the bed for a while, watching her sleep, my heart swelling with a vague anxiety. I went to the living room, brewed a cup of black coffee, trying to calm myself. The clock on the wall ticked, each sound reminding me that Rebecca was coming soon. She lived just a few blocks away, in a compact apartment suited to her busy life as a detective in the Special Investigations Unit at the Raleigh Police Department. Rebecca Ward, 38 years old, was the strong woman I had once loved passionately. We met in college, married young, and Anna was the result of that love. But work had torn us apart, me with surgeries, her with cases. After the divorce, we maintained a peaceful relationship for Anna's sake. She often visited on weekends, bringing sweets and fun stories. But tonight was not a normal visit. Around 9 p.m., there was a knock on the door, light but firm. I opened it, and Rebecca stood there, her face serious under the hallway light. In her hand was a thick file, gray cover, looking like a time bomb. "Elliot," she said, her voice low. "Thanks for bringing Anna home." "Come in," I replied, my voice hoarse. We sat facing each other at the dining table, the atmosphere heavy like an interrogation room. Rebecca placed the file on the table but didn't open it right away. She looked at me, her usually light blue eyes now darkened with worry. "Are you okay? You look tired. Just tell me, Rebecca, what's with Colin? Why did you call so urgently? I didn't want to beat around the bush. My heart was pounding like a drum." She took a deep breath, then spoke concisely, her voice even but weighted. "I'm handling a file related to a case of child sexual abuse. The accused is your brother, Colin. And I'm worried about Anna because she's so close to him. That's why I called earlier." I froze, as if someone had thrown ice water in my face. "Child sexual abuse? Colin? My brother, 34 years old, a literature teacher at a prestigious private high school? He had a friendly appearance, a warm voice, refined manners, always the one pampered by our parents, liked by colleagues, admired by students. Colin was the youngest sibling, the one everyone had protected since childhood. I remembered him telling stories to his students, organizing after-school reading sessions. How could he? No, impossible. Are you joking, Rebecca? Colin? My brother? There must be a mistake." She shook her head, opened the file, and pushed a few pages toward me. "No mistake, Elliot. This file is from a victim, a 15-year-old female student at his school. She accused Colin of approaching her, grooming her, and abusing her. There are statements, screenshots of messages, but the case is complicated because the victim's family suddenly withdrew the complaint. I suspect outside interference." I looked at the papers, the words blurred under the light, but the content stunned me. Colin's name repeated, along with descriptions of behaviors I couldn't bear to read fully. "But Anna? She's his niece." Rebecca looked straight into my eyes, her voice softer. "I'm not sure either. But Anna is very close to Colin, and that worries me. I don't want to take risks. If this file is true, you know, it would be very dangerous to leave Anna alone with Colin." I felt blood rushing to my head, the world around me blurring. Anna, my daughter, 8 years old, shy and vulnerable. I remembered the times Colin visited, bringing gifts, playing with her. I always thought it was family affection, but now those memories seemed distorted. Oh God, Rebecca. I don't know what to think. Colin is my brother. He couldn't. "I know this is hard to accept," she said, placing her hand on mine, a rare gesture after the divorce. "But I'm a detective, Elliot. I've seen all kinds of things. And I don't want Anna in danger. Let me investigate more, but from now on, don't let her be near Colin alone." I nodded mechanically, but inside was chaos. We sat in silence for a while, the clock ticking like a slow exploding bomb. Rebecca shared a few more details about how Colin had been suspected for a long time, rumors at the school, but our parents always covered it up. Howard Grayson, my father, with his power at the hospital, could make everything disappear. But now, it was seeping into my home. Rebecca glanced into the bedroom, saw Anna sleeping soundly, and quietly left. The house suddenly became suffocatingly silent. I stood up, paced the living room, feeling like the walls were closing in. The fear Rebecca wanted me to avoid was no longer hypothetical. It was real, infiltrating right into this house, into my and Anna's life. I went into her room, watching Anna sleep soundly, her innocent face under the nightlight. She was afraid of the dark, but where was the real darkness? Out there or right in my family? I sat by Anna's bed, stroking her hair. Work had taken too much of my time. Night shifts, surgeries that kept me home late, leaving Anna alone or with Colin. I promised myself to change, but now what? If Colin really... I didn't dare think further. That night I didn't sleep, lying on the sofa, my mind swirling with images of my brother, his warm smile now a mask. Raleigh outside the window was peaceful, but inside me was hell. The next morning, Anna woke up, ran to the kitchen with a bright smile. "Dad, I want pancakes today." I forced a smile, made breakfast for her, but my hands trembled flipping the pancakes. She talked about last night's party, about Uncle Colin, and each word she said cut like a knife. I hugged her tighter, promising to spend more time. But inside I knew the conversation with Rebecca had opened an irreparable crack. Colin, my brother, was now a suspect, and Anna, my daughter, could be a potential victim. I called the hospital, took a day off, for the first time in years. Sitting alone while Anna was at school, I thought about Rebecca. She had warned me, and I was grateful for that. But the pain was still there. Pain for the family, pain for the truth. I looked out the window. The Raleigh sky was gray, like signaling the storm I had sensed last night was approaching, and I had to protect Anna at all costs. Time passed slowly. I cleaned the house, trying to do something to forget, but the image of the file haunted me. Rebecca had left a copy, and I flipped through it, reading each line. The victim's statement, a 15-year-old girl describing how Colin approached her. The messages starting friendly, then turning perverse. My heart tightened. How could my brother do this? We grew up together, shared a bedroom, played ball in the backyard. Colin was always the gentle younger brother, crying when bullied. But now, Anna came home that afternoon bringing a drawing from school. A happy family under the sun. "For you, Dad," she smiled. I hugged her, tears welling up. That evening I read her a story longer, adding details to make her happy. But when Anna slept, I was alone, facing the fear. I sat there, gently stroking my daughter's soft hair. Her face was peaceful, her eyelids tightly closed, as if dreaming of the fairy tales I had once told her. But in my mind, other images flooded in, not fairy tales, but fragments of the past. Fragments that now, under the light of Rebecca's words, became sharp and terrifying. I closed my eyes, letting the memories pull me back 3 years when everything began to crumble. 3 years ago, my marriage to Rebecca fell apart. We had once been the perfect couple. I, a promising neurosurgeon, and she, a talented police detective. We met in college, falling madly in love amid late-night study sessions and hurried coffee dates. Anna came as an unexpected gift, and we thought we could balance it all. Careers, family, love. But reality was harsher. My work increasingly consumed my time. Surgeries lasting 10 hours, sleepless night shifts, emergency calls at midnight. Rebecca was the same, with complex cases, overnight stakeouts, reports due before dawn. We started arguing, not out of jealousy or betrayal, but from accumulated exhaustion. "You're always at the hospital," she once accused me on a stormy night. "And what about you? You're chasing bad guys to protect the city, meanwhile neglecting the family you should prioritize first." I replied, my voice full of weariness. "We're both saving people, Rebecca. But who will save us?" In the end, we decided to divorce. Not because the love was gone, but because we couldn't continue hurting each other. The court awarded me custody of Anna, as Rebecca's job required more travel. Anna was only 5 at the time, too young to understand. She cried all through the first night Rebecca moved out, clinging tightly to me and asking, "Where's Mom going, Dad? Will she come back?" I held her, tears rolling down, whispering, "Mom still loves you, but now we'll live separately. Dad will take care of you." But deep down, I knew I wasn't ready. Work still swept me away, and Anna became part of my busy schedule. Hasty breakfasts, dropping her off at school, then picking her up late due to extended surgeries. After the divorce, Rebecca still visited Anna on weekends. On Sunday afternoons, she would come with bags full of candies and toys, sitting and playing with her for hours. I watched from afar, my heart a mix of gratitude and regret. "Are you okay?" she asked me each time she left. "Fine," I always replied, but it wasn't. Anna grew up in a world where she had to learn independence early. She was obedient, but I began noticing small changes, signs that at the time I dismissed as normal. Recently, Anna had many strange behaviors. She would startle when someone touched her, even just a light pat on the shoulder from me. One morning, I hugged her from behind to say good morning, and Anna jumped up, her eyes wide with panic. "What's wrong?" I asked, my voice worried. She shook her head, forcing a smile. "Nothing, Dad. I was just daydreaming." But it wasn't just that. Anna didn't want to sleep alone anymore. Every night she begged me to sit by her bed until she was fully asleep, and sometimes I heard the sound of her locking her bedroom door from inside, a strange habit for an 8-year-old. She became quieter, no longer laughing and playing boisterously as before. At dinners, Anna sat silently, only nodding when I asked questions, her eyes staring into the distance as if hiding something. I had asked her a few times, "Is something wrong, Anna?" "Tell Dad." But she just shook her head, her voice tiny. "Nothing, Dad." And then surgeries would pull me away again. An emergency brain tumor case, a car accident patient, and I quickly pushed that worry aside. She's probably just growing up more sensitive, I told myself. Work was the reason or the excuse for not digging deeper. But now, sitting by her bed tonight after Rebecca's words, those behaviors became frighteningly clear. Could it be related to Colin? The thought made my heart race wildly. I clearly remembered one time about a few months ago during dinner. Anna was fiddling with her plate of spaghetti, and I tried to chat to pull her out of her shell of silence. "How was school today, sweetie?" She shrugged, then suddenly blurted out, "Uncle Colin often comes over after school when Dad's still at the hospital." I paused my fork, looking up. "Oh? What does Uncle play with you?" Anna looked down, her voice soft. "At first, Uncle plays games, reads stories, watches movies with me. But gradually I feel uncomfortable." My heart tightened slightly, but at the time I thought she was imagining things. "Uncomfortable how, sweetie?" She hesitated, then said, "Uncle often strokes my hair, hugs me too long, even kisses me or holds my hand without letting go. I don't like it." I remember laughing, patting her shoulder. "Uncle Colin is just caring for his niece, sweetie. You're too sensitive." Anna nodded, but her eyes avoided mine. And then the phone rang, the hospital calling, an emergency. I hurriedly put on my coat, kissed her forehead, and rushed out the door. That busyness made me not pay attention to her words anymore. I thought Colin was my brother, family. How could he harm his niece? He was always friendly, always bringing gifts for Anna. But now, recalling it, those trivial details became deep, cutting knives. Stroking hair, long hugs, kisses, holding hands, gestures I once saw as affection now seemed distorted, suspicious. How could I have been so blind? I got up from Anna's bed, went out to the balcony, breathing in the night air of Raleigh. The cool wind carried the scent of withered leaves, but it couldn't dispel the torment within me. I felt terrible for not listening to my daughter. Anna had tried to tell me, had blurted it out during conversation, but I brushed it off. Work blurred everything, turning me into an inattentive father. Protecting the very child I loved more than anything, that should have been my top priority, but I had failed. Tears rolled down my cheeks for the first time in years. I thought about the nights Anna locked her bedroom door. What was she afraid of? The dark or a familiar shadow? Colin often came over after school when I was still at the hospital. How many times? How many opportunities to? No, I didn't dare think further, but that fear made my heart ache sharply. The days that followed passed like a prolonged nightmare. Every morning when I woke up, I watched Anna eat breakfast, laughing and joking with her, but in my mind, Rebecca's words haunted me constantly. I monitored her more closely, asking about every little detail of her day at school, about the people she met. Anna still smiled, still played, but I noticed the silences. Those moments when she stared into the distance, her hand unconsciously clutching her stuffed bear tightly. "Are you okay?" I asked, and she nodded. "I'm fine, Dad." But I knew it wasn't. The suspicion about Colin grew larger, like a malignant tumor I had once removed from patients, but now it was spreading within my own family. I didn't contact Colin, avoiding every call from my brother. He texted asking about Anna, but I read them without replying, my hand trembling on the phone screen. My parents called asking why I hadn't visited, but I made excuses about being busy. How could I face them when suspicion was gnawing at me? Rebecca called every day updating me on the investigation, but she said everything was stalled. "No new evidence yet," she said, her voice full of disappointment. I lay awake late at night, my mind swirling with images of Colin laughing and playing with Anna, those prolonged hugs she had once mentioned. I blamed myself hundreds of times. Why didn't I notice sooner? Why did I let work blind me? A few days later, I couldn't take it anymore. The unease was like a wild beast tearing at me from inside. I texted Rebecca. "We need to meet. Something important." She agreed immediately, and we arranged to meet at a small coffee shop in downtown Raleigh, the place where we used to date in our youth, with old wooden tables and the aroma of freshly ground coffee wafting everywhere. I arrived early, sitting in a secluded corner, my hand gripping a steaming cappuccino tightly. My heart pounded like before a complex surgery. I would tell her everything, about what Anna had said, her strange behaviors. But saying it out loud meant acknowledging the truth, and that terrified me. Rebecca arrived on time, stepping into the shop with a tired but still detective-like demeanor. Black leather jacket, hair tied high, sharp eyes scanning the space. She sat down across from me, ordering a black coffee, no sugar. "Are you okay, Elliot? You look like you haven't slept in days." I nodded, my voice hoarse. "Not really. But I need to tell you something." And then I recounted everything, from Anna's strange behaviors to the time she blurted out about Colin. She said Uncle often strokes her hair, hugs her too long, kisses her, holds her hand without letting go. At the time, I thought it was just caring, but now... Oh God, Rebecca, if that's... She froze as she listened, her face paling under the dim yellow light of the shop. Her eyes flickered, a flash of anger like fire mixed with deep sorrow. Rebecca gripped her coffee cup tightly, her knuckles turning white. I sat silently, feeling each word I spoke weigh heavily in the air like stones pressing on my chest. The coffee shop around us was bustling, sounds of grinding beans, customers' laughter and chatter. But for us, the world narrowed to this wooden table and the truth being exposed. "Elliot," she whispered, her voice trembling. This isn't just a hunch anymore. This is living evidence. Anna, our daughter." I nodded, tears welling up. "I know. I was terrible for not realizing sooner. But what now? You're investigating. The file has statements, evidence. Why hasn't Colin been arrested yet? He's still free out there, teaching, meeting kids. Why hasn't your agency acted?" Rebecca took a deep breath, looking out the window where Raleigh's traffic flowed endlessly. She explained, her voice low but clear, like reporting a case. "We can't issue an arrest warrant yet, Elliot. Lack of direct evidence. The victim, the 15-year-old girl, has withdrawn her statement. At first, she detailed everything with messages, screenshots, but then the family refused to cooperate. They said the girl made it up and all the data from Colin's phone, school cameras, all lost right when the incident happened, as if someone erased the traces. I stiffened, my heart racing. Traces erased? How is that possible? That's evidence." She nodded, her eyes darkening. "Not just that. Colin didn't just use money, he relied on the Grayson family reputation. And Howard, your father, quietly intervened. He had someone talk to a few department heads to stabilize the situation. A scholarship support was sent to the victim's family through an intermediary, a few $1,000s, enough for them to withdraw the complaint and stay silent. The file was then suspended due to lack of evidence. We don't have anything concrete to charge him with." Her words cut like a knife. My father, Howard Grayson, the man I had once admired, hospital director with influence spreading throughout Raleigh. He had the power to make everything disappear with one call, a favor, a charity donation. I remembered the times he resolved family troubles, A traffic ticket vanished, a small lawsuit quashed. But now child abuse? My father, he knows? I whispered, my voice breaking. Rebecca nodded. I suspect so. And Colin is still contacting some witnesses, bribing teachers, other students to keep secrets. There are rumors at the school, but no one dares speak. Your family. They're good at covering up. I fell silent, looking down at my cold coffee. The truth hit like a wave, drowning me. My father, who always taught me about medical ethics, about saving people, now using his power to protect wrongdoing. Colin, my brother, whom I once thought harmless, now a monster. But the disgust in me grew, not just for Colin, but for the way the family covered it up. We were the Graysons, prestigious. But was that prestige built on lies? I thought about my mother, Diana, with her charity fund, helping poor children, but now what? Did she know? Or was she silent too? The coffee shop atmosphere suddenly felt stifling. Soft jazz music played from the speakers, but to me it was like the whisper of demons. Rebecca looked at me, her eyes full of worry. Elliot, don't do anything reckless. Let me investigate. But from that moment, a determination formed within me to find the evidence myself, even if it meant confronting my own blood. I couldn't sit idle, waiting for the slow system. Anna was here, and if Colin had touched her? No, I wouldn't let him get away. We sat a little longer talking about Anna, how she was gradually opening up more as I spent time with her. Rebecca talked about her work, about other cases that exhausted her. But beneath the surface, the tension remained. As we left the shop, she hugged me tighter than usual. Promise me, don't do anything stupid. I nodded, but in my heart I had already decided. I left the coffee shop with a muddled mind, driving home through the gray afternoon in Raleigh. Rain began to drizzle, the drops pattering against the windshield like drum beats urging my heart. That determination burned fiercely, but I knew I couldn't be reckless. I was a doctor, not a detective. One small mistake could make everything collapse. Colin discovering, my parents intervening, and justice forever buried. I needed to plan, needed patience, even though every second of waiting felt like torture. At home, Anna was sitting at the dining table drawing, her face lighting up when she saw me. Dad's home! I drew our house with Uncle Colin too. My heart tightened when I looked at the drawing, the figure of Colin standing next to Anna holding a ball. I hugged her tightly, trying to hide the pain. It's beautiful, my love. But today, let's not mention Uncle, okay? She nodded, innocently unaware of anything. In the following days, I began discreetly monitoring Colin's routines. I wasn't an expert, but experience from complex surgeries taught me patience and detailed observation. Every morning, I drove past the high school where he taught literature, parking on a distant corner street, observing through sunglasses. Colin always arrived early, smiling friendly at colleagues, carrying an old briefcase. After school, he often stayed behind, organizing reading clubs for students. Those girl students with admiring smiles. I noted his schedule, Monday to Friday, teaching from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., sometimes late meetings. On weekends, he attended school events or went for coffee alone. I followed from afar, my heart pounding each time he looked around as if sensing my gaze. Once he called, "Bro, why haven't we met lately?" "How's Anna?" I replied casually. "Just busy, little bro." "Anna's fine." But my hand gripped the phone tightly, disgust surging. I also tracked his movements, from his suburban home to the school through Raleigh's familiar streets. Colin's house was a gift from our parents, a small wooden home on the outskirts, quiet with a garden full of trees in the back. I remembered my mother once giving me a spare key. Keep it in case Colin forgets. Now that key was in my pocket like a secret weapon. I planned meticulously. No rushing to break in, only when sure he was away for long. Every night I lay awake, my mind sketching scenarios. What if I got caught? What would I say? If I found evidence, what would I do? The anticipation kept me sleepless, but the determination grew stronger. Anna was the motivation. She was gradually happier. laughing more as I spent time with her, but Colin's shadow still lingered. And then the opportunity came. One Friday evening, I checked the school schedule on the website. There was an outdoor event, a literature festival with Colin as the main speaker. I called to confirm with him, pretending to check in. "You busy?" I was thinking of dropping by. He laughed over the phone. "I'm at the school event until late, getting home really late, bro. See you tomorrow." My heart pounded. This was it. I waited until 8 p.m., when Anna was sound asleep under the care of the trustworthy neighbor. I put on a black coat, a baseball cap, and drove to the outskirts. The road was pitch black, with only headlights sweeping through rows of oak trees. My heart beat like a drum, hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. "What are you doing, Elliot?" I asked myself. But the image of Anna locking her bedroom door pushed me forward. I parked a block away from Colin's house, walking the rest of the way. The house was dark, no lights, no car. He was gone. My hands trembled, inserting the spare key into the lock. The door opened with a soft creak, and I stepped in, closing it behind me. The house air was familiar, scent of old books, coffee, and a bit of mustiness. I turned on my phone flashlight, avoiding the main lights to not alert neighbors. Heart pounding, I went straight to the study, where Colin graded papers with a large wooden desk and desktop computer. I sat in the chair, my hand touching the keyboard, feeling like I was committing a crime. But no, I was seeking justice. The computer wasn't password protected. Colin was always so carefree. I opened folders, searching for hidden files. My hand scrolled quickly, heart racing, when I found a deeply buried folder named Notes. Opening it, and the world collapsed. Dozens of photos of students at school, girl students laughing in uniforms, taken secretly from afar. Then worse, photos of Anna in our backyard, her swinging, skirt fluttering in the wind. Time-stamped a few months ago when I was busy with surgery. My heart stopped, blood rushing to my head. "No, it can't be," I whispered, my hand trembling as I scrolled. Those photos weren't accidental, close angles like stalking. I copied everything to the USB I brought, disgust surging. Then I saw the digital camera on the desk. My hand pulled out the memory card, inserting it into my laptop. Quick check, series of photos, and then photos with the same girl multiple times. A girl about 15, brown hair, shy smile. Timestamps matching the date Rebecca mentioned, the day the victim accused of abuse. Photos at school, in the park, and worse, in private places. I shut down the machine, hands shaking so much I nearly dropped it. This was evidence, vivid, undeniable. Not stopping, I opened the desk drawer. Inside was a mess of papers and then a black-covered notebook at the bottom. I flipped it open and my heart sank into the abyss. A list of female students, names, ages, dismissal times, frequent locations. Park near school, coffee shop, even home addresses. Next to them were personal notes. Easy to approach, likes storytelling and needs more following. Anna's name was there. Niece close, easy to hug. I froze, unable to believe what was before me. Emotions of horror and guilt mixed. Horror that my brother was a monster, guilt that I had let Anna near him. I wanted to leave, run from this place, but needed to confirm one last time. This wasn't the Colin I knew, or had I never truly known him. I photographed the notebook with my phone, copied more files from the computer. I had gathered enough of what I needed, photos, memory card, notes. Heart racing fast, sweat pouring. I shut down the computer, put everything back as it was. Notebook in the drawer, camera in place, folders closed. No traces. I didn't want Colin to suspect before Rebecca acted. I stood up, legs weak, stepping out of the study. The hallway was pitch dark, only moonlight filtering through the window. I held my breath, listening, absolute silence. But then, as I took a few steps, a faint sound came from the floor at the end of the hallway. Something scraping? Or a groan? My heart pounded. I stopped, ears perked. The sound repeated, faint, mixed with very soft sobbing, like a child trying to suppress cries. The hairs on my neck stood up. It wasn't an illusion. I approached closer, holding my breath to listen, feet stepping lightly like a cat. At the end of the hallway was a secluded corner, old wooden floor. I knelt down, ear to the floor. The crying was clearer, choked, desperate. There was space below, and I saw small scratches on the wooden floor as if frequently pulled open. What was this? A secret door? My hands trembled, flipping the floor rug, an old rug covering it. And then, the secret basement door appeared, wooden lid with a loose lock. My heart felt like it would burst. I opened the lid, the hinge creaking softly, and the choked sobbing echoed from the darkness below. Confirming my worst fear, someone was down there. I shone my phone flashlight down. Steep wooden stairs led into the damp darkness. I took a deep breath, descending step by step, legs trembling. The smell of mustiness mixed with fear, sweat, tears. The flashlight swept across. Old wooden crates, a tripod camera set up in the corner, tangled wires, stacked folding chairs. What was this? A torture room. Then in the corner of the room, the light shone on. 2 underage girls huddled on the cold concrete floor. They were about 14 to 15 years old, clothes tattered, hands loosely bound with rope, eyes wide with horror under the sudden light. One sobbed uncontrollably, the other whispered, "Help! Help us!" The scene left me stunned, my whole body frozen as if iced. Blood rushed to my head, ears ringing. This wasn't a horror movie, this was real. 2 children locked in my brother's basement. Camera, ropes, evidence of heinous crimes. All the evidence I had just collected now seemed redundant because before me was the stark truth. Colin truly was a beast, a monster hidden behind a warm smile. I knelt down, my voice trembling. "Don't be afraid, I'll save you. I'm Colin's brother, but I'll get you out." They looked at me, eyes full of doubt and fear. I untied them, hugged them, their small bodies shaking like withered leaves. One whispered, He took us after school, said it was to help with homework." My heart shattered. Colin, my brother, the one I grew up with, now a predator. I understood from this moment I wasn't just a brother seeking truth, but a son stepping into his family's nightmare. The prestigious Grayson family now shattered by this dark secret. I immediately called Rebecca after discovering the 2 girls locked in the basement. My hands trembled as I dialed the number, my voice stuttering over the phone. "Rebecca, you have to come right now." I found 2 kids in Colin's basement. They're tied up, locked in. Oh God, mobilize the team. On the other end, Rebecca was silent for a second. Then her voice became professional, sharp as a blade. "Stay calm, Elliot. I'll report it as an emergency right away. Don't touch anything, keep the victims safe. The SWAT team will be there in 10 minutes. I hung up, my heart pounding as if it would burst. The 2 girls, one named Mia, about 14 years old with disheveled hair and red, swollen eyes, the other Lily, 15, her thin body shaking uncontrollably, huddled on the living room sofa. I wrapped thin blankets around them, poured water from the kitchen, trying to reassure them with a gentle voice. "You're safe now. I'm a doctor, I'll help. The police are coming soon." Mia sobbed uncontrollably, clinging tightly to me. Uncle Colin said he'd take me home, but then he locked me down there," Lily whispered, her voice weak. "I've been locked up for 2 days. No food." Their words left me stunned, as if someone had punched me in the chest. Colin, my brother, was not just a stalker, but a kidnapper, a torturer. I thought of Anna, fortunate that she hadn't reached this point, but the fear still made me shudder. The waiting minutes stretched like hours. I paced the room, ears perked for any sound from the road. Raleigh at night was quiet, but in this house the atmosphere was heavy like hell. The siren wails echoed from afar, then police cars swarmed in. The SWAT team, men in black armor, handguns holstered at their sides, broke through the main gate, flooding the house like a torrent. Rebecca led the way, her face pale as she looked at me and the 2 victims. "Elliot, are you okay? How are the girls?" She asked quickly, then commanded, "Get the victims out of the danger zone. Call an ambulance." The officers acted swiftly, gently leading Mia and Lily outside, wrapping them in warmer blankets, checking for injuries. They were trembling but safe. No serious wounds, just exhaustion and panic. I stood watching, my feet rooted to the spot, feeling like I was in an action movie, but this was reality, my own nightmare. Rebecca gave me a brief hug. "You saved them. But now let me handle it." I nodded, my voice hoarse. "I found evidence, photos, notebook, everything in the study." She nodded, her eyes flashing with determination. The house was quickly sealed off. Yellow tape was strung around the yard, floodlights illuminating brightly. Forensic technicians, people in white hazmat suits, began collecting evidence. They went into the study, taking the computer, camera, and the black-covered notebook I had discovered. I guided them. Memory card and the camera, victim photos. Notebook has a list. They nodded, noting carefully, photographing the scene. The secret basement was thoroughly searched. Camera, ropes, wooden crates, all sealed. Rebecca supervised, her commanding voice. "Check for fingerprints, DNA. Don't miss anything." I stood in the yard, the night wind chilling through my coat, but sweat still poured from tension. Thinking of Colin. He was at the school event, coming home late. Would he suspect? I glanced at my watch. It was nearly 11 p.m. The anticipation rose high, like waiting for a bomb to explode. Suddenly, from the end of the street, the roar of an engine echoed. A silver sedan swerved to a stop in front of the gate, headlights sweeping across the yard full of police cars. Colin stepped out, reeking of alcohol. I could smell it from afar. His shirt rumpled, a few buttons undone, hair messy. His face was a mix of confusion and anger, eyes scanning the scene. Police cars parked everywhere, flashing lights, officers on guard. "What the hell is going on here?" Colin shouted, his voice slurred from drunkenness. He staggered forward, pushing the gate. The police immediately surrounded him. A tall officer approached, hand on his gun. "Colin Grayson, you're under temporary detention for investigation of unlawful detention and child sexual abuse. Please cooperate." Colin froze for a second, eyes wide, then reacted violently. "What? Are you crazy? This is my house. Who allowed you in? This is a fabrication. I've been framed." He yelled, his voice shrill, face flushed from alcohol and rage. He shoved the officer, trying to break through the police line, shouting, "Call my parents. Call my lawyer. This house is mine. No one has the right to enter without a warrant." The officers coordinated to restrain him. Two holding his arms, one cuffing his hands right in the yard. He struggled, kicking, screaming. "Let go! You'll regret this. My father is Howard Grayson. He'll make you lose your jobs." And then, amid the chaos, he saw me, the brother standing in the yard, silent, eyes not leaving him. In that moment, Colin realized I was the one who had called the police. His eyes widened, shifting from shock to hatred. You, Elliot? What have you done? You betrayed me?" He growled in despair, his voice breaking, but his gaze on me, burning with resentment yet pleading. "Bro, help me. This is a misunderstanding." I stood silent, not responding. It was no longer anger, but a deep sadness like an abyss. I knew I had just ended everything, ended brotherhood, ended the prestigious Grayson family. Colin was shoved into the police car, still struggling, shouting, "You'll regret this, Elliot. I'm your brother." The car drove off, the sirens fading, leaving the yard in deadly silence. Rebecca approached, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing. Now go home. Anna's waiting." I nodded, but my feet felt heavy. Driving home the Raleigh Road at night, blurred under the rain, I cried. Crying for my brother, for the victims, for Anna, for myself. The nightmare wasn't over, but at least the two girls were safe. And Colin, he would have to face justice. I got home at midnight, The neighbor had left Anna sleeping soundly. I sat by her bed looking at her innocent face, emotions swelling. Today I had saved 2 children but lost my brother. Thinking of Colin in the station. What was he shouting? Calling our parents? How would Howard and Diana react? I knew my parents would defend him, use their power, but this time the evidence was too clear. Rebecca texted, "Colin's in custody. Update tomorrow." I lay on the sofa, my mind swirling with images of him being handcuffed. From childhood, Colin was the weak younger brother. I always protected him from bullies at school. Now what? I was the one pushing him into prison. The sadness was profound, but no regrets, for Anna, for the victims. The morning after, the Raleigh sun filtered through the curtains, but it couldn't dispel the darkness in my heart. While Anna sat eating toast, I secretly opened my phone, checking the news. And then, it hit like a flood. The arrest news spread rapidly across Raleigh. Local newspapers, TV channels, even social media all reported. Prominent high school teacher arrested for unlawful detention and child abuse. Suspect's name: Colin Grayson, son of St. John's Memorial Hospital director. The Grayson name became the center of gossip. From coffee shops to offices, people whispered about the prestigious medical family now fallen into disgrace. I read it with a tightening heart, the image of Colin in handcuffs replaying in my mind. My father's hospital must be in chaos, stocks dropping, patients panicking. But I didn't care about the reputation. I only thought of Mia and Lily, the 2 girls now being cared for, and Anna, my daughter, safe thanks to my actions. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. The screen showed Dad, Howard Grayson. My heart pounded hard, like before a critical surgery. I took a deep breath and answered, "Elliot, where are you? Come home immediately. We need to talk." My father's voice was ice cold, full of anger. Not the voice worried for his youngest son, but the voice of a man protecting his empire. I knew this meeting was unavoidable. He would scold, try to cover it up. "Yes, I'll come right away," I replied, my voice calm despite the turmoil inside. I took Anna to the neighbor's house, explaining, "Dad's going to see Grandpa and Grandma for a bit. Be good, okay?" She nodded, hugging me. "Come back soon, Dad." Driving to my parents' villa in the North Ridge area, the affluent neighborhood with grand old houses and lush green gardens, I felt my mood heavy as lead. The familiar road now cast in shadows, each turn reminding me of family memories, parties, praises, but now, all distorted. When I stepped into the house, the familiar scent of polished wood and fresh flowers enveloped me, but the atmosphere was cold like an operating room. My father, Howard Grayson, director of St. John's Memorial Hospital, stood in the middle of the living room, the 70-year-old man still tall and imposing with silver-white hair, but his face flushed with rage. He wore a gray suit, his hand gripping a newspaper, surely the article about Colin. My mother, Diana Grayson, 67, president of the St. John's Foundation charity, sat on the leather sofa, back straight, hands clasped, a posture of someone trying to maintain composure without screaming. She wore a long, light blue dress, jewelry sparkling, but her eyes were cold, without a trace of warmth. "Sit down, Elliot," my father said, his voice like a command. I sat on the opposite chair, heart pounding, waiting for the storm. Howard didn't wait. He launched right in. "What have you done? You called the police to Colin's house? You've destroyed our family's honor. This could have been handled internally. We talked to the lawyer, to the victims, settle it quietly. Now what? The media is smearing us everywhere. The hospital is suffering huge losses. Shareholders calling nonstop, patients canceling appointments. What were you thinking?" His voice echoed in the room, face red, hand slamming the wooden table with a thud. I sat silent, looking at him, the man who always put family honor and name first above the truth. He didn't ask about the victims, didn't ask what Colin had done, only cared about the Grayson honor. My mother didn't interrupt her husband, but her eyes were cold and distant, like looking at a stranger. When I turned to her, she just shook her head slowly, a sign of deep disappointment, Not for Colin's crimes, but for me betraying the family. "Elliot, you're the eldest," she said, her voice low but sharp. "You should protect your brother, protect us. Now what have you done? Let the police into the house, let the press tear us apart. We could have helped Colin, send him to therapy, cover everything up. But you chose to side with outsiders." Her words cut like a knife, but I realized Mom and Dad only cared about Colin, about the perfect family image. I didn't fight back, just sat silently looking at my parents, the two people I had once respected, now strangers. My heart ached sharply, but not from the scolding, from the harsh truth. They chose to cover up crimes instead of facing them. In my mind flashed childhood memories like an old film rewinding. I remembered summer days in Raleigh when Colin and I played ball in the backyard of the villa. Colin was always praised and pampered by our parents. He drew an ugly picture. Mom called it beautiful. He broke the TV. Dad just laughed. The boy's still young. Me, the eldest, always endured strict discipline. A bad grade in one subject, Dad scolded for hours. I fought at school to protect Colin. Mom blamed, "You have to set an example." I always had to yield because you're the older brother, sacrifice for your sibling. The times Colin took my toys, parents said, "Let your brother have it, son." That favoritism was like a festering scar over the years, growing through adolescence. When I studied medicine, struggling day and night, Colin chose teaching literature, and parents still praised him for having an artistic soul. Now, even with the truth clear, Colin a beast locking children in the basement, my parents still blindly defended their youngest son. They didn't see his crimes, only saw misunderstandings, only wanted to cover up to preserve reputation. I sat there listening to my parents. Dad continuing to rant about the hospital's losses, Mom lamenting the impact on the charity fund. But I said nothing, just nodded mechanically. In my heart, the initial anger gave way to a cold emptiness. I realized I had never truly belonged to this family. A family built on image, on power, not on genuine love. When Dad ended with, "You have to fix this, call the lawyer, withdraw the complaint," I stood up, my voice calm. "I'm sorry, but I don't regret it." My parents looked at me, eyes wide in shock, but I turned my back, walking out the door without another word. The door closed behind me, the lock clicking softly like closing a chapter of life. Driving home, the North Ridge Road now blurred under the midday sun, I cried. Not for losing the family, but for liberation. Anna was waiting for me at home, and she was my real family. The news still spread, but I would face it. The anticipation remained, the trial approaching, but I was ready. The Grayson family shattered, but my conscience was at peace. The months that followed passed in a strange loop, peaceful on the outside, but chaotic inside. I returned to work at the hospital, but no longer with prolonged surgeries. I chose a more flexible schedule, dedicating time to Anna. She gradually regained her cheerfulness. We went to the park, drew pictures, read stories every night. Rebecca visited more frequently, bringing fun stories from her work, and gradually our relationship warmed up again. But the shadow of the case still loomed. Colin was in pretrial detention awaiting trial. The press didn't stop reporting. The Grayson scandal. Prominent teacher or predatory monster? And each article cut into my heart like a knife. Colleagues at the hospital looked at me strangely, whispering behind my back, "The brother of the pervert." I ignored it, focusing on Anna. She asked about Uncle Colin a few times. "Where did Uncle go, Dad?" I answered gently. "Uncle's busy with work far away." But late at night, when Anna slept soundly, I stayed awake, thinking about the upcoming trial. I would testify, recounting that horrific night, the secret basement, the two trembling girls. The anticipation surged. Would Colin plead guilty? Would my parents intervene? The evidence was clear, but Howard's power could twist everything. 6 months later, the Colin Grayson case was brought to trial at the Wake County Courthouse in North Carolina. The courthouse was in downtown Raleigh, a historic building with granite columns and polished wooden hallways. The case attracted massive media and public attention. Reporters crowded outside the doors, cameras flashing, crowds whispering. "The Grayson family has fallen," someone murmured as I entered. I was present as a witness and the discoverer of the scene. I chose to sit quietly in the back row, avoiding all camera lenses. In a gray suit, tie knotted tightly, but my hands were ice cold, sweat pouring. The courtroom was packed. The victims' families sat on one side, eyes red. Colin's friends, those who still believed him innocent, sat on the other, shaking their heads in pity. Rebecca sat near me, gripping my hand tightly. "You'll be fine. The truth will prevail." But my heart pounded like before a life-or-death surgery. This trial wasn't just judging Colin, but judging my entire family, truth confronting lies. Colin was led into the room, and that moment left me stunned. My brother, once the friendly young man with a warm smile, was now so haggard I barely recognized him. His face gaunt, eyes sunken like black pits, hands trembling slightly as he sat in the defendant's seat. He wore a pale gray suit, hair cut short, but his demeanor was like a ghost. His lawyer whispered something, but Colin just bowed his head, avoiding everyone's gaze. When the prosecutor, a middle-aged woman with a sharp voice, read the indictment, the entire courtroom fell into tense silence. The defendant, Colin Grayson, is charged with multiple counts: unlawful detention of 2 minors, multiple sexual assaults, stalking and grooming students. The list went on, each charge like a hammer blow. Colin sat still, his shoulders shaking slightly, and I saw tears rolling down his cheeks. My heart ached sharply. Despite the disgust, he was still my brother. The public murmured, "Monster!" someone whispered. The courtroom atmosphere was stifling, like a pressure cooker about to explode. The trial lasted several days, each day like a nightmare. Besides the 2 rescued victims, Mia and Lily, now healthier but with trembling voices when testifying, 3 other girls also took the stand. They were former students of Colin's, girls aged 14 to 16 with youthful faces, eyes red under the courtroom lights. A girl named Sarah recounted, her voice choked. "Teacher Colin followed me after school, texted late at night, forced me to meet alone. He said it was a special secret." The courtroom was deathly silent, only faint sobs. The second girl, Emma, described prolonged hugs, stolen kisses. "I was scared, but teacher said if I told, I'd be expelled." And the third, Zoe, told of being locked in his car. "Teacher took me to the park, then did horrible things." The defense lawyer tried to counter, "This is just a misunderstanding. The defendant only cared for his students." But the testimonies were too clear, too painful. I sat listening, my hands gripping the seat tightly, tears welling up. Those girls could have been Anna. The thought made me shudder. Then a teacher from the school also testified, Mrs. Johnson, Colin's colleague, about 50 years old, her voice trembling as she admitted, "I once received anonymous reports about Colin. Students said he harassed them. But the administration requested silence to protect the school's reputation." She bowed her head, eyes avoiding. "I regret not reporting to the police." That testimony was like a fatal blow, not just Colin, but the entire cover-up system. With the evidence presented, photos from the computer, the notebook entries, videos from the basement camera, DNA matching the victims, every defense argument collapsed. The prosecutor stated, "This wasn't an accident, but a planned system of crimes." The courtroom murmured, reporters scribbling furiously. No one doubted Colin's guilt anymore. He bowed his head, shoulders shaking as if accepting his fate. Howard and Diana were present in the front row like stone statues. My father sat straight, his face paling under the lights, hands trembling on his knees, he who always controlled everything, now powerless. My mother bowed low, her gaze vacant, hands gripping a handkerchief tightly. They avoided looking at me, treating me as the one who had betrayed the family. Not a glance, not a word. I sat in the back, looking at them, my heart a mix of pity and disgust. They still came, still defended with silence, but the truth was exposed. When I was called to testify, I stepped to the stand, my voice calm as I recounted that night. I entered my brother's house, found the basement, rescued the two girls. The defense lawyer tried to attack. "Do you have a grudge against your brother?" I shook my head. "No, but I chose the truth." The courtroom silent, and I returned to my seat, heart pounding. The anticipation peaked. The verdict was coming. When the verdict was announced, 32 years in prison, no parole consideration for the first 20 years, and mandatory lifelong registration as a sex offender, the entire courtroom murmured. The judge read in an even voice, but each word like a sledgehammer. The defendant abused trust, causing permanent harm to the victims. Colin collapsed, his shoulders shaking with sobs, his lawyer helping him up. The victims' families hugged and cried. The public whispered. As for me, I just closed my eyes, exhaling heavily, feeling both liberation and sorrow. Liberation because Colin could no longer harm anyone. Sorrow because my brother, the one I had once loved, was now a prisoner. Reporters crowded outside the door, but I slipped out the back, avoiding all questions. A few days later, while the public was still buzzing, I received a short letter from my father. A white envelope, handwriting trembling. "From now on, you are no longer part of this family." That was all. No explanation, no greeting. My mother said nothing, only sending a cardboard box via mail. Inside were all my photos and mementos I had left at their house. Childhood pictures, medical badges, even the toy car I gave Colin. I opened the box, looked at the items, my heart empty. My parents had disowned me, cutting off all contact, removing me from the will, from family history. The press reported, "Grace and family shattered after trial." Colleagues avoided me. Friends distanced themselves. I had lost everything. Parents, lineage, reputation. But in exchange, I kept my conscience and justice. After the trial, the atmosphere in Raleigh became stifling for me. Every street corner, every familiar road evoked memories of the past. My father's birthday party, Colin's house, the scrutinizing eyes from colleagues at the hospital. The press continued reporting, public opinion kept whispering, and I felt like I was living in a shattered glass cage. I decided to leave Raleigh for a short time, not to escape, but to heal. I resigned from St. John's Memorial Hospital, the place where my father had once proudly introduced me as the successor. Colleagues were surprised. The department head asked, "Elliot, are you sure? You're one of our top talents." I nodded, my voice calm. I need a change, for my family. And then I took my daughter Anna to a child psychology therapy center in Asheville, a small, peaceful town in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a few hours' drive from Raleigh. Asheville, with its cool air, artistic streets, and lush green nature, was like a soothing balm for our souls. We rented a small apartment on the outskirts with a backyard overlooking the hills. Anna was surprised at first. "Dad, why are we moving? Isn't Raleigh our home?" I sat down, hugged her, and explained gently, "This is a vacation trip, my love. Dad wants you to be happier, and there are good doctors here to help you." The therapy center was a cozy place with playrooms full of toys and psychologists specializing in traumatized children. Dr. Emily, a middle-aged woman with a gentle smile, met with Anna weekly. Under her guidance, Anna gradually regained her composure. She used to startle at touches, lock her bedroom door every night, but now she began to open up. In therapy sessions, Anna drew pictures, dark ones at first with shadows and sad faces, gradually shifting to vibrant colors with flowers and sunshine. "I dream about Uncle Colin," she once told the doctor, her voice tiny. Dr. Emily guided her to face it. "You have the right to be scared, but you also have the right to be strong." I sat in the waiting room, my heart tightening as I heard her talk, but knowing this was a necessary process. Anna laughed more, slept better, and the nightmares faded. I was proud of her. An 8-year-old girl resiliently overcoming darkness no one should endure. As for me, after the rest period, I returned to work, but no longer as a busy surgeon. I chose to be a freelance consultant supporting treatment for psychologically traumatized children who had been abused. I collaborated with centers in Asheville, advising parents, sharing experiences from Colin's case. Each case was a reminder. Those children with fearful eyes like Anna once had. I worked fewer hours from home or via video calls, and every afternoon I came home to her. This new life was simple but meaningful. No more emergency surgeries at midnight. No more pressure from the Grayson reputation. I learned to live slower, breathing in the mountain forest air, and found peace in the little things. Rebecca visited us, father and daughter, frequently. After the case, she requested a transfer to the Civil Investigations Department, cases less dangerous, fewer night shifts, to have more time for Anna. She drove from Raleigh to Asheville on weekends, bringing sweets and storybooks. At first, the visits were awkward. We talked about Anna, about the case, avoiding the past. But gradually, the atmosphere warmed up. One autumn afternoon, as we sat in the backyard watching Anna run and play with the neighbor's dog, Rebecca turned to me. "You've changed, Elliot. You're no longer the man who puts work above everything." I looked at her, those light blue eyes that once captivated me, and smiled. The case taught me a lot. "I don't want to lose Anna again." She nodded, her hand lightly touching mine. A small gesture, but enough to rekindle old feelings. From then on, the two of us started taking her to class together, having dinners together, and chatting normally like friends. Rebecca stayed overnight on weekends, sleeping in the guest room, and we shared family meals. The old affection, once cracked by careers, gradually mended through understanding and responsibility instead of empty promises. One evening, when Anna was sound asleep, we sat on the balcony looking at the twinkling stars in Asheville's sky. "I once thought we couldn't go back," Rebecca whispered. I held her hand. "We're not going back. We're moving forward. For Anna, and for us." She rested her head on my shoulder, and in that moment I felt the affection warming up. Slowly, genuinely, like a small flame warming the cold night. I knew the past couldn't be erased. The case, Colin in prison, my parents disowning me. But I could do right for the present, for my daughter, and for myself. I stopped trying to change my parents. Unanswered calls, unsent letters. Instead, I learned to be the father my daughter could trust, listening to her, hugging her when scared, and teaching her to be strong. In the small new apartment in Asheville, with simple furnishings and sunlight flooding in, I hung Anna's drawing, 3 people in a sunny garden. Me, Anna, and Rebecca, holding hands and smiling. Looking at it every morning, I understood. I didn't need to return to the glorious past with renowned surgeries. After all, what I needed was a truly peaceful life. In the afternoons, we sat by the lake, cool breeze blowing, and I whispered to Rebecca, "Thank you for being by my side." She smiled. "Thank you for changing." Anna ran over, hugging us both. "Love Mom and Dad the most." My heart warmed, and the old pain gradually faded. The new life, not perfect, but real. The suspense and drama of the past gave way to peace, and I knew this was the deserving end. After all, I understand that justice is not the enemy of familial bonds, but a cruel test to see who truly dares to love in the right way. I understand that sometimes the most righteous action is also the one that leaves us most isolated. But it's better to lose loved ones because of the truth than to keep them through deception. As a father, I deeply realize that children don't need perfect parents. They just need parents who dare to protect them, dare to stand on the side of what's right, even if it comes at a cost. Anna doesn't need a famous doctor for a dad. She needs a dad who listens and protects. Elliot's story reminds me that the truth is never comfortable, but it is the only path that leads people to freedom. From the confinement of the Grayson reputation, I am free in Asheville, free to love, to live authentically. To those who have suffered trauma, I want to say, don't stay silent, don't hide it, because one person's silence can allow evil to live another lifetime. I've seen it through my work. Victims silent, perpetrators continue. Speak out, like Anna did. And in the end, I understand. The most precious thing is not fame or power, but the peace that comes from living true to one's conscience. In Asheville, with my new family, I am at peace, not wealthy, but with a clean conscience. That is the treasure. Those reflections I write in my journal, share in my teachings. Life taught me through pain, but I am grateful. Peace has come, and I live fully.